Hi, I'm Bonnie Barker. Welcome to BonnieBayCrochet.com, and you have reached video number 2 of the Aran Sampler Mystery Throw crochet along. All right, I'm going to go ahead and just dig right in here. I'm still using the same size hook for most of my crocheting, size J or 10. Later on, you will need one size smaller, which is I'm using size 9 or 5.50 millimeter. The size 10 hook is 6 millimeters. So let's go ahead and get started. Each square is going to begin in the same exact way. So go ahead, start your slip knot, and you're going to chain a total of 46. So go ahead and do that right now. 46 chains. After crocheting 46 chains, I'm going to start in the third chain from the hook, and I'm going to half double crochet in that third chain from the hook, and in each chain all the way across. Again, I'm just working in one loop of the chain. So go ahead and work that half double crochet row all the way. After completing this row, you should have 44 half double crochets. That does not include the chain 2. I prefer to refer to the chain 2 as a chain 2, not as a half double crochet, just to minimize confusion. Okay, we're going to turn and chain 2, and we're going to half double crochet in the very first 2 stitches. This is going to provide kind of like a buffer to help feature our stitches a bit more. Okay, now we're starting the honeycomb stitch. This is very similar to what you have worked in the first video, with just a little bit of a difference. Okay, we're going to start off by skipping the first 2 stitches, and we're going to front post treble crochet in the next 2. If you've never seen a front post treble crochet, prepare your hook like you would for a treble crochet, and instead of working in through the top, we're simply going to bring the hook so that it goes around the stitch, the body of the stitch, kind of giving it a belt, and then we just complete the stitch as normal. Now for the 4-post cable, we worked in the 2 skipped stitches by working in front of these 2 stitches. Well, to start the honeycomb, we're actually going to come in behind the 2 stitches, but we're still going to work front post treble crochets. It's a little bit tricky. So what you can do is bring it around. Let me go try that again. I prepare the hook with the 2 wraps. I come in behind these 2 stitches, but yet I'm going to have to work my hook around this stitch. And one way you can do is pop your thumb up there like this so that you see the stitch clearly, and work the treble crochet. I admit this is a bit awkward at first, but once you understand exactly where the hook needs to go, see, I need to go around this stitch here, you can bring it up above. And this is actually going to be the most difficult row because these stitches are only half double crochets. But once you get to the rows following this, we're going to be working in front post or in double crochets, so it'll be a little bit easier. Now we're going to skip the next 2 stitches and work front post treble crochets in the next 2 stitches. Working in front of the last 2 stitches we just made, we're going to work in front this time, which is much easier. This is exactly what you were doing for the 4-post cable. So we're just going to working in front, just work treble crochets in those 2 stitches that were skipped. So what you're doing is you're making like a little V with these cables. One cable is going to be turning that way, and the other cable is going to be turning the opposite direction. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and we're going to do that again. We're going to skip the next 2 stitches. Again, this is just a repeat of what we just did. Front post treble the next 2 stitches. Now working behind the stitches we just made, we're going to come into this hole right here And we're going to wrap our hook around this stitch first. You can see it much more easily if I pop it up like that. Do make use of these fingers here of the non-dominant hand. They will serve you by telling you where you need to be with these stitches. Okay, look at that, find the next stitch. Once I locate it with my thumb, I can easily guide my hook where it needs to go. Okay, now we're going to do the second half of this honeycomb. Skip the next 2 stitches, front post treble crochet in the next 2, and working in front of the 2 stitches that we just worked, go ahead and front post treble crochet in the 2 skipped stitches. Okay, let's pause. It's always good to pause every now and then and check to make sure that visually you are getting what you want. Okay, so for the beginning of the honeycomb, 1 cable should go down this direction and then another cable that direction. Okay, so go ahead and do that across the row. When you finish, you should have 3 beginnings of honeycomb. See, this whole thing here I'm counting as 1, 2, okay, you should have a total of 5 rather. You should have 5 all the way across, and then we will half double crochet in the last 2 stitches. So go ahead and complete that. Okay, after going all the way across, I'm going to show you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 foundational honeycomb cables begun, and we have 2 stitches remaining. So go ahead and work half double crochets in each of those 2 stitches. Okay, so that will complete row number 2. So let's go ahead and turn, chain 2, and row number 3 is actually the same as row number 3 in the first video. We're going to work half double crochets in the first 2 stitches, again working through the top loops like you normally would. Then after that, we are simply going to work back post double crochets all the way across, and it's worked very similar to the it is a post stitch, just like with the front post treble. You just wrap the hook like you're preparing for a double crochet. We're going to wrap the hook around the next stitch and just complete the double crochet as normal. Okay, so go ahead and work each of those all the way across until you get to the last 2 stitches of the row. At the end of row 3, you simply work 2 half double crochets, 1 in each of the last 2 stitches. Now we can turn. We can see that it's a little more defined after that row. Okay, now we're going to work row number 4. I'm going to chain 2, and I'm going to work half double crochets in those first 2 stitches. We will do this for the beginning of every row and at the end of every row. Now this is going to be a lot easier for you to see. We're going to skip the first 2 stitches. We're going to work front post treble crochets in the next 2 stitches. Now remember, at this point 2 rows ago we worked behind these stitches. Well, now we're going to reverse that. We're actually going to work in front of these 2 stitches at first, or for these first 4 stitches. Okay, we crocheted a front post treble in those 2 stitches that were skipped. Now we're going to skip the next 2 stitches, which are these 2 stitches, and we're going to front post treble in the next 2. Having some yarn trouble here. Okay. Okay, so I've front post trebled in these 2 stitches. Now I'm going to work behind these 2 stitches and front post treble in the 2 stitches here that we skipped. Okay. One, and then the one right next to it. Okay, let's stop and take a look. So you can see the kind of a honeycomb shaped stitching here. And again, once we do the row that follows this row 5, you'll see that even more clearly. I'll do the next one as well. And I'm just repeating what I just did. Skip 2 stitches, front post treble crochet in the next 2. Now we're going to work in front of these stitches. We're going to front post treble in the 2 stitches that we skipped. And if you're ever not sure, well, gee, do I go in front or behind? Simply look at the shape you're making. Okay, you can. It's a very visual stitch. Okay. Now we're going to skip the next 2 stitches, front post treble, the next 2, working behind these 2 stitches, we're going to front post treble in the 2 stitches that we skipped. Okay. I know this is a little tricky. I'm trying to be slow and clear. See that stitch right there? It's okay to pull these stitches around so that you can see what you're doing. Okay, so now we have 2 honeycombs completed. So go ahead and do that all the way across the row. Okay, after working this all the way across, go ahead and work your half double crochets in the last 2 stitches. You turn. Now to begin row 5, we're going to chain 2, half double crochet in those first 2 stitches, and just like we did with row 3, we're going to work back post double crochets all the way across this row. Okay, make sure that you work them evenly across. Okay, go ahead and finish that. The last 2 stitches, work your half double crochets, 1 in each of the last 2 stitches. Okay, let's go ahead and turn and look at the front side. And you can see more definition here of the honeycomb. Okay, you should have 5 across. Now I want you to go ahead for this square and repeat rows 2. That's where we started the post stitches. Rows 2, 3, 4, and 5 are what you're going to need to repeat for these honeycombs. You're going to need to repeat those 4 rows 5 more times until you have, if you count this direction and then going up in the column, you should be able to count 6 honeycombs, and that should produce a square. So go ahead and repeat rows 2 through 5 more times. Okay, after repeating rows 2 through 5 more times, I wanted to show you we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 honeycombs in a row, or in a column rather, and at the widest point, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 honeycombs across. Now also notice how when you do these honeycombs that other ones appear, which is really kind of fun. So now we are ready to do our perimeter round. Now just as a reminder, if you're doing the complete mystery throw in one solid color, you only have to do 1 perimeter round. I'm going to show you how to do this perimeter round again, and make sure from at this point that you change from your larger J hook to your I hook, or whatever size you're using. Go down at least 1 size. Some of you may find that you need to go down maybe 2 sizes in order to get the single crochets to look even and not too bulky. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and chain 1 and turn, and you should have the front side facing. Okay, and let me also mention that the reason I'm having you do 2, 1 with the color that you're using and then 1 with a contrasting color, if you choose to use a contrasting color, is it kind of minimizes the way the stitches look along the side. That's the biggest challenge of doing these squares of any kind of a crochet project is that, you know, making it look nice when you put it together. That is hard, admittedly. So this is just an attempt to minimize the way this looks. If I used a contrasting color directly, especially on these ends, it tends to draw too much attention, in my opinion, to some of the irregularity of the stitches along the edge. So by going with a solid color that's the same as the square, and then coming along with the contrasting color later, when you see that contrast, it's going to be much more even. All right, so now we are just going to do this the same way we did square one. I'm just going to chain one and then work single crochets all the way across to the first corner. Okay, now that I've worked that single crochet all the way across, just working in the stitches, not working in the turning chains, I have 44 stitches, and so should you, all the way across. Remember, I know I'm repeating myself from the first video, but it's very important that you keep the stitch count constant in all of these squares so that when we put them together, it will not be a nightmare. It will be a breeze for you to do. Okay, now I'm going to turn my square 90 degrees to work along the row ends, chain 2, and I'm going to start my first single crochet. I'm going to do 44 all the way across, and that's going to include this chain, this corner that I'm doing right here. I'm going to work my first single crochet going across the row ends in the same place as where I worked the last one, forming this corner with the chain 2. Okay, so now I'm going to just work 44 single crochets, starting with this one here. That was number 1. That's 2. And remember, just like we did before, 44 all the way across as evenly as you can. Okay, I've worked this all the way across. I have 44 stitches, starting with this corner and all the way to this corner. Okay, I'm going to just repeat that all the way around the rest of the square. I'm going to chain 2. I'll just go ahead and show you that much at least. Chain 2, and I'm going to start my single crochet in the same place as I made the last one. Now, remember, we want to keep this at 44 stitches, and we've already started one here. So as we did before, I'm going to have you skip this first stitch. This is working across the foundation chain, and there's work 1 single crochet in the next and in each across. And the reason I do that is it just keeps this corner, gives it a little more integrity there, and trust me, this will not matter. Just go ahead and work all the way across, and you will have 44 stitches once you get to the end of this side, and then chain 2, another single crochet in the same place as last, and then work 44 more stitches all the way across, and then I will show you how I join to the first. Okay, now that I've worked 44 stitches all the way across the other side with the row ends, I'm going to go ahead and chain 2, and I'm going to join with the slip stitch to the first stitch of this perimeter round, just like that. And I'm going to go ahead and give it a chain, give it a tug, and get my scissors and leave a nice long strand for weaving in. And now I'm going to go get my contrasting color and do the next perimeter round. Just like in the first square, I'm going to find a corner. I'm going to use a different corner than the one where we joined, just to kind of minimize the yarn that can build up with changing colors. All right, I'm going to go ahead and do a chain, and then I'm going to single crochet in that chain 2 space. Now remember, as we go across each side this time, it's much easier. We're just working in the single crochets, but you should have 46 stitches. You have the 44 that we made plus 1 in each of the corners per side. So that's going to give you a total of 46 single crochets all the way across. So go ahead and do that. If you're a beginner to crochet, I hope I haven't lost you yet. But one little trick that you can do with a lot of these loose ends that you're going to be having to hide at the end of this project, one way I like to hide some of them is to kind of, especially when I attach yarn, is to go ahead and crochet over this piece. Notice that I'm crocheting over this, just an effort to hide it. And I want to, make sure we kind of put it towards the back as much as possible. So this way, at least it hides one strand on this square that we won't have to deal with again. So go ahead and work those single crochets all the way to the corner, just like we did in the first perimeter, and work that last single crochet in the chain 2 corner. Okay, just in an effort to be clear, I've come to the first corner. I'm going to go ahead and work another single crochet in that chain 2 corner, chain 2. I'm going to turn my panel 90 degrees, and then I'm going to work another single crochet in that very same space, that chain 2 corner, and then continue to work single crochets across the next side. So go ahead and repeat this all the way around your square. I've just worked my last single crochet in the first chain 2 where we just first connected our yarn. I'm going to chain 2, and I'm going to join with the slip stitch to that single crochet. Okay, give it a chain, give it a tug, and I'm going to again leave a nice generous piece of yarn so that I can hide that using my yarn needle at some point once we get to the end in constructing this. So let me go ahead and give you a very close-up view of what you should have here. Again, we should have 5 honeycombs across and 6 honeycombs deep. Okay, so this concludes video number 2 with the second square in the Aran Sampler Mystery Throw. Join me next week and we will do square number 3. As a side note, remember now, if you're following along with what I'm doing, you're going to want to make 4 of these total. Okay, we're going to need 4 of these for the throw when we put together our 20 squares. Okay, God bless. Bye-bye.